First at 4:30, an emotional day ahead as family and friends prepare to say goodbye to George Floyd. And a somber scene at Floyd's old high school as the community says goodbye. Plus, new numbers in Texas prove the coronavirus is still here.
From the KHOU 11 studios, this is H-Town Rush.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us here on H-Town Rush. I'm Stephanie Simmons, and we'll head straight to Cheetah Craft because we are looking at another day of extreme heat.
In fact, this is our first day that we have a heat advisory. Steph, we have a heat advisory not only here locally, but across all portions of southeast Texas. So we are starting off already this morning. Extremely hot, extremely humid, and temperatures are only going to soar once that sun comes up. So by midday and afternoon, temperatures are going to be feeling up to 112. By lunchtime today, our feels like or heat index value should be over 100 degrees. Live look outside in Kemah. We are starting off this morning under partly cloudy skies, dry conditions expected throughout the day when temperatures struggle to drop below 80 degrees overnight. That's when you know it's going to be a really hot day. And in fact, that's why that heat advisory is issued. So we're looking at 2 consecutive days where temperatures are going to struggle to drop below 80 overnight. And then, of course, our high temperatures of the day in the upper 90s with our feels like temperatures up to 112 this afternoon. We keep it hot for the rest of the week. We'll talk more about the rest of the week with our 7-day coming up in about 5 minutes.
Wow, Cheetah. Okay, thank you for that update. Today, George Floyd will be laid to rest following a private funeral service. Yesterday, mourners paid their respects to the 46-year-old who died more than 2 weeks ago in police custody. Natalie Brand has more.
Thousands poured into this Houston church to say a final farewell to George Floyd. Outside, his family remembered him as only they could.
Eating banana mayonnaise sandwiches. No, seriously, just having fun in a house full of love.
Other families who lost loved ones at the hands of police were there in support.
Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Aubrey, it just hurt. Breonna Taylor, everybody. Thank y'all. We will get justice.
Floyd's death more than 2 weeks ago has sparked an outcry for police reform that's now being debated around the country.
We're trying to move the needle forward. It's not an off and on switch.
Democrats in Congress have introduced new legislation aimed at improving police accountability and cracking down on excessive force. But it does not address calls to defund police, an issue some protesters are pushing.
I don't support defunding the police. I support conditioning federal aid to police based on whether or not they meet certain basic standards of decency and honorableness.
President Trump met with law enforcement at the White House.
There won't be defunding. There won't be dismantling of our police.
Meanwhile, bail for former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was set at more than $1 million yesterday. He's charged with second-degree murder in Floyd's death. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Our thanks to Natalie Brand for that report, and Chauvin is due back in court on June 29th. More than 6,300 people made their way to the Fountain of Praise Church to say goodbye to George Floyd. They came from all over Houston and also across the country. Many attendees said they saw themselves in Floyd. Each person had their own deeply personal reason on why they had to attend. One man drove from Dallas after finishing this portrait of Floyd.
What he said, "I can't breathe," when he was crying for his mother. Halo symbolizing he went to heaven. I felt something deep down inside that I really needed to be here today.
The people we spoke with said they hope Floyd's death helps change the country. And several dignitaries paid their respects yesterday. Reverend Al Sharpton tweeted this photo of former Vice President Joe Biden visiting with the Floyd family. Governor Abbott also met privately with the family, offering his condolences.
I wore this tie on purpose because this is the color of Houston Yates, where George Floyd was a tremendous athlete.
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee also visited the church. At one point, she kneeled at Floyd's casket. Mayor Turner was also there, and Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo has declared today, June 9th, as George Perry Floyd Jr. Day. Floyd's family was joined by hundreds last night for a candlelight vigil at his alma mater, Jack Yates High School. Here's Matt Doherty.
I could go and pick a young poor dude out the CUNY home, 3rd Ward, Texas, and he changed the world.
From former teammates to his family, those who knew George Floyd best spoke of change through ground-level community action.
We have good police, but we have bad police. You can't sort them out, so we got to figure it out right now. We're coming together around the world. Everybody's tired and fed up. We're getting treated like we're 1/3 of a human being. And you know what? If we're here, we keep this unity going. When these cameras gone, we're going to have to stand together and keep marching without these cameras around. Every voice
As the sun set on the hundreds in the crowd, flames were passed from neighbor to neighbor, leaving a sea of candles in the air. George Floyd's neck was pinned by the knee of a Minneapolis police officer for exactly 8 minutes and 46 seconds. At exactly 8:46 p.m., the crowd went silent in prayer.
Today, Reverend Al Sharpton will deliver the eulogy for Floyd at the funeral, which is invitation only. The service begins at 11 a.m., but our coverage begins for you at 10 a.m. as we look at the impact his death had on the country. You can also watch on KHOU.com and our KHOU 11 Facebook page. After the funeral, Houston police will escort Floyd's body to Pearland, where he will be laid to rest next to his mother at Houston Memorial Gardens. Floyd's body will be carried by a horse-drawn carriage for the last mile of that procession. Now let's pivot to the latest on the coronavirus. Here are 3 things to know about today. Number 1, there are now more than 7 million confirmed cases worldwide and more than 405,000 deaths. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. As the U.S. reopens, some states are reporting an increase in cases. Number 2, the World Health Organization says it's very rare for the virus to spread through asymptomatic people. In a press conference, they announced fewer asymptomatic patients than previously thought. The organization is now relying on data from contact tracing. And number 3, millions of N95 masks will be shipped to California. According to Governor Gavin Newsom, the shipment will come from a Chinese company after federal regulators approved those respirators. The masks are part of a $1 billion deal that Newsom struck with the company back in April. And a reminder that the coronavirus is still very much with us. Yesterday, Texas saw its highest number of hospitalizations with 1,935 people. We watched this number slowly rise since Memorial Day. And when we focus in on the greater Houston area, which includes 19 counties, we saw an upward trend with the 14-day moving average for new cases. Now look closely at this past weekend and especially at Saturday when we saw a surge of new cases with 835 reported. That's the most since the start of the pandemic. Then on Sunday we saw a big drop off, but today we are back up, but still lower than the weekend. It's somewhat concerning as we look at those numbers for you, so of course we are going to be keeping a close eye on things as the week progresses. Now this morning there are renewed calls to get rid of an outdated racist rule in deed restrictions of Oak Forest. An old rule says that only white people could own homes in Northwest Houston and that subdivision. Grace White shows us why 3 years later the rule is still there.
It's one of Houston's oldest neighborhoods.
And it's a wonderful neighborhood, and I'm proud to be a part of it. But it was, founded in the late 40s.
And the language in some of the founding documents, St. Stephen's United Methodist pastor Nathan Lonsdale Bledsoe felt compelled to call out in a recent sermon.
I've heard from a lot of people that have bought houses in the neighborhood lately that, when they read that particular passage, it was really jarring to them.
We found the language on the Homeowners Association website stating only people of Caucasian race can own or live in a home.
We too are just learning about this process.
At the HOA's virtual meeting tonight, board members told concerned neighbors who joined the Zoom it was unenforceable. A note on the HOA's website mentions the Fair Housing Act of 1968, but several neighbors spoke up saying the pain still exists.
And so that legacy lives on.
KHOU's legal analyst says the HOA can and should change the wording.
The homeowners group is saying we're not going to enforce this is a tired, old argument.
Board members said others have tried before, but the work to change it was more difficult than it first seemed. This pastor says now's the time.
The fact that something takes a lot of work doesn't mean that it's not worth doing.
The HOA says it's consulting its attorney and will have another update next month. Meantime, several neighbors volunteered their own time and effort, saying they want to get this done faster. back to you.
Grace White, thank you for that. We go back to Cheetah. Are we going to break any records today with this heat?
Boy, we're going to come really, really close, okay? So I'm forecasting a high of 97 today. Our record at IAH, so the big airport where we keep our records, the record today is 97. And get this, that was actually set last year. So last year today, we were at 97 degrees. 98, that's the record at Hobby Airport, 94 in Galveston, and we are going to come close all across the board here. Yesterday, we hit a high of 95. Today, we're tacking on another degree or two, but it's really the feels like temperature. We're going to tack on a good 5 or 6 degrees by the afternoon for that heat index number. But again, our record today, 97, and that was set last year, 2019. This morning, we're struggling to get below 80 degrees, so partly cloudy skies will take our 80s this morning and really warm them up really quickly. By lunchtime today, 90 feels like temperature at lunchtime today above 100 degrees. 97 this afternoon with a feels like temperature of 112. Now, what's interesting is overnight tonight into tomorrow, we have a front that is going to pass, and that's actually going to change up our wind direction, so it will change up the relative humidity as we trend towards Thursday and Friday. But today and tomorrow, we will be tracking and dealing with this dangerous heat. Temperatures this morning, 80 in Tomball, 80 degrees in Sugar Land, 84 this morning on the island, Huntsville at 80 degrees, Livingston at 80 degrees, so you get the idea, a really sticky start to the day. High pressure builds in. Notice how these isobars continue to push upwards, and that's that big ridge of high pressure. It's building in for Texas and pretty much all of central United States here. And as that builds in, our temperatures aren't really going to budge. So when this front moves in overnight, again, it will shift our wind direction out of the north, but it's not going to provide much of a rain chance. We're going to be dealing with partly cloudy skies. That takes us in through the rest of the week and the weekend. If you are thinking about your Saturday or Sunday, mid to upper 90s, not much of a pattern change, just a slight drop in that relative humidity. Today, though, bar none, will be the hottest day of the year. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Cheetah, thank you. And now is a good time to get your severe weather guide. You can download yours at khou.com/severe weather or text the word weather to 713-526-1111. And of course, thanks to our sponsors. Time now is 4:42, and coming up, claims of the Lincoln Monument vandalized. That's just one of the many rumors going around right now. Our Verified team gets the truth. Plus, CrossFit is looking for new sponsors after Reebok drops them. We'll explain why just ahead.